Welcome to Sports Wire, a weekly talk show brought to you by the Garden City Telegram. I'm sports editor Brett Marshall.
And I'm Levi Burnford, the sports reporter. This week we're talking about the JUCO's loss at Iowa Western and the Garden City High School's win at Liberal. We'll also be previewing the upcoming games this weekend.
Well, the Broncbusters were on the road to Iowa Western, traditional national power. A couple of years ago, national championship team, Levi. The Busters really kind of gave one of their better performances, but came up just short. What happened in that game?
Yeah, definitely the defense's performance was much better. Something that Jeff Sims was wanting his team to give the last few weeks. And they performed well, holding Iowa Western to 3.4 yards per play, which is the key stat, I think, when in today's college football. A lot of up-tempo offenses will give up a lot of yards, but it's yards per play that's the biggest thing to look at. And if that was in NCAA ranks and they did that for a whole season, that puts them fourth best defense in the NCAA ranks. So 3.4 yards per play is really impressive. Iowa Western's struggling with some injuries right now, but they're still a talented team. So to have Garden City's defense play that well is good. Offense is still struggling. They need to get that on board quickly if they're going to go anywhere. But signs of progress. Well, and speaking of defensive performances, after an opening kickoff to taken to the house by Liberal, Garden City High School basically shut out the Liberal Redskins. What'd you see in that game?
Well, it was a dominating performance after the opening kickoff. I think Coach Brian Hill, it was one of those trap games, you know.
Yeah.
They hadn't even scored in 2.5 games, and so when they returned the opening kickoff, 89 yards for a touchdown, I think it really woke up.
Yeah, might have been the best thing that happened to him.
It may very well have been because you look down on the sidelines and the coaches were really getting after him, and I think it just kind of got the excitement going again for the Buffaloes, and from there they just were impressive. They ended up leading 28-6 at halftime, and after halftime, Liberal never got inside the 35-yard line of Garden City the whole game. So a very dominating performance by the Buffaloes, and they're now 5-0 for the first time since 1995.
On Sunday, you had an opportunity to travel to Wichita, cover a really special ceremony for one of Southwest Kansas' best athletes to ever come out of the area. What did you happen on Sunday?
Well, most everybody around here knows the name Shaylee Litting from Sublette. She was a consensus high school player of the year in 2005, led her team to 2 consecutive state championships, and she was inducted into the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame on Sunday evening in Wichita, one of 11 that went into the Hall of Fame this year, but only the 6th person from Southwest Kansas to ever make it into the Hall of Fame. And there's a lot of criteria, number of years since she played, and that was really impressive because she's just 28 years old, and a tremendous honor for her. A lot of people from Sublette there to support her, and she just did a tremendous job in her remarks about how much it meant to her and just the small town community support that she had received through the years. So really special occasion, and it was really neat to be there. And we covered the event and had a profile of her in Monday's Telegram, and I think people would really enjoy reading some of her thoughts too about the occasion. Well, the Broncbusters get to come home after a couple of weeks on the road, tough losses, but back home against traditional rival Hutchinson, Jayhawk Conference game at 7 o'clock at Broncbuster Stadium. What can we look for from this game where Hutchinson is the defending conference champion, but they've kind of had a rough road too?
They have had a rough road, and they've lost a couple of games here. Got blown out by Butler. So they're 3-3 now. Garden City's obviously 1-5. Prior to the season, this is one of those games you would have circled on the calendar, said, hey, this could be a big game for the Jayhawk Conference. It's no longer that way. The Jayhawk Conference is up to grabs only for Butler and Coffeyville. Hutch is basically out of it at this point. So, but it's one of those games that it's a measuring stick for both teams. Is Hutch still right on the next tier, on the second tier in the Jayhawk Conference, or is Garden really getting better and they're kind of climbing the ladder as the season goes? So it'll just be interesting to see what Ryan Rhodes' Hutch's team has and what Jeff Sims' teams has in store for Saturday's game.
Has Coach Sims indicated anything that he's going to try to do with it to get his offensive side sparked?
No, honestly, I'm not sure what they can do at this point. He wants to stay with the offense. Their offensive line really limits what they can do anyways, since they're so small there. So he says it's just a matter of execution. And If they can execute perfectly, which is that type of system really needs you to execute perfectly almost all the time in order for it to work. If they can do that, they might have some success, but it's going to be a struggle against a pretty stout Hutchinson defense still. The Buffs are also home this week on Friday night at 7 o'clock, taking on Wichita East. What do you expect from Coach Brian Hill's squad?
Well, this is the game that you've just got to, again, take care of business, much like last week. Wichita East is 0-5. They've had 2 reasonably close games, 3 blowouts, losses. First-year coach and Bill Kaufman. The Blue Aces are really struggling a little bit, obviously. So it's show up, do what you need to do, take care of business, try not get anybody hurt, and be 6-0 as you get ready for the districts the following week, because once the Class 6A District 8 starts with Hutchinson and then Wichita Northwest and Dodge, you've got 3 train wrecks coming up possibly. I mean, they could be 0-3 or they could be 3-0 once they get to district play. So.
Well, we know that they've got a lot of athletes, and they've been in a lot of games and just made a lot of mistakes, and so we've got to make sure that we're again continually worried about ourselves and how we execute and how we play, and we've got to not let their athletes get loose. Well, yeah, I mean, after 5 weeks, we've pretty much identified who we are, and we're going to play to our strengths, and we're going to mix it up like hopefully we did last week. They remind me a little bit of us a little bit last year. They give up a lot of big plays, and it seems like they lose a lot of confidence, and by the time they kind of get it figured out, they've already given up 2 or 3 touchdowns. But they have the ability.
This is really a key game to make sure that you just keep getting better and do the things that you need to do. So it should, and it's homecoming for them. So I think that's another distraction perhaps, and you just never know how kids are going to react on on a night like that.
Also on Friday night is one of the bigger area games we have this season. Earlier this year, we saw the Holcomb Scott City game. Now we get the Scott City Ulysses game. 2 undefeated teams so far, 2 really rolling teams so far. What do you expect on Friday night?
Well, that's a great question because I'm not sure exactly what I do expect. Yeah. But what I do expect from Ulysses is that Ian Rudzik's going to carry the ball and carry the ball a lot.
Yeah, I think
and
that's
if he has
bet.
a good game, then Ulysses has a really good chance of winning. If he doesn't have a good game, then I think Scott City's got a good chance of knocking the Tigers off. The game's at Ulysses, so give Ulysses a little home field advantage there. 2 years ago, Ulysses knocked off Scott City. It was one of the rare regular season losses for Scott City, so you just never know what's going to happen. This determines the Great West League Championship again this year, so I think it's a great opportunity for area football fans to really see 2 of the best teams, 2 of the best coaches, and a couple of the best players in the area too. Scott City's Cooper Griffith is having a really good year, both on the offense and defense at linebacker. So I think you've got the 2 best linebackers in the area, probably outside of the Garden City kids, to watch. So it should be a lot of fun. Kevin Thompson will be covering the game for us. We'll have photography from it. So Saturday morning, when people get up bright and early, they can get a recap of what happened in the big game of the week out in the area. That's it for this week. I'm Brett Marshall.
And I'm Levi Burnfin. You've been watching SportsWire, a weekly talk show brought to you by the Garden City Telegram.
Catch the show at 5 p.m. every Thursday at www.gctelegram.com, and thanks for watching.